The highly anticipated Madlib and Mac Miller joint album may not see release after all. This is something that was floating around on the internet or whatever, but I'm going to try to pronounce this guy's last name.
Just uses
Egon.
Everybody knows Egon.
Egon, okay, say less.
So Madlib's ex-manager, Egon, claims that the producer unlawfully absconded with property owned by their company. So essentially, the label that Egon and Madlib have together, it was started there. It was created there. And then Madlib left and wanted to take the project with them. And Egon's like, no.
We started this here.
It's like, it's us together.
Yeah.
And he's also been in the news recently, Egon, because of the MF Doom journals or whatever. I don't know if we talked about that on the show, but
I don't think so.
He was in control of them and the family wanted them back, but technically it was like legally he had them. And so there's this weird ethical type thing going on, but I don't remember what happened with that. Somebody's going to have to tell me, in the comments, but yeah, I think it's interesting. What
do you think about Long? What do you think? How does this make? I guess the lawsuit for him sounds like, based off what we've described and what we talked about. I mean, he has a point. Like, I don't know if this is something we could actually say that makes him look bad, because if it was initiated here and then you take it there, sounds like he has a good point.
Yeah, I mean, legally, specifically, I don't know the actual, the relationship and how that has changed throughout time. There's more about this, though. There was more about this. So let me just read what it says here, because the countersuit filed by the producer's former manager, Egon, claims that he produced the joint album for Madison's show, the record label established by Egon and Madlib. However, Madlib supposedly unlawfully absconded with Madison's show's property to wit and established a new company. The new Madlib Invasion label promised in quotes to release the joint album and Montana, which is what you just read. Both records are obligated to deliver to Sony Music. Egon further alleges that Madlib is refusing to cooperate to drop records and has been releasing projects produced by Egon for Madison's show. He also claims that Madlib released one of Miller's Madison show masters for Talib Kweli's Liberation 2, as well as released one of the Liberation 2 masters produced by Egon for the Black Star album No Fear of Time. In November of 2024, Madlib sued Egon for mismanagement of his record store and their new joint venture. He accused the exec of engaging in rank self-dealing concerning information from and repeatedly breaching his duties to Madlib, as well as persistent and pervasive mismanagement and abuse of his role within the two entities and the producer's professional and music business affairs. So this seems like this is a countersuit to the original suit that Madlib put out there. Yeah,
that's a lot there. That's a lot. Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than I thought.
So in other words, whenever this finally gets settled, we'll get the music.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, and that was another question that I had in there is, the possibility or potential of the importance of, first of all, a Madlib and Mac record. To me, that is impactful. Knowing that it was, like I said earlier, it was recorded properly. And then Freddie Gibbs, based off their track record, these are two records that I feel I would deem need to be heard.
So none of the artists involved in this have any ownership on this either. It's only owned by Madlib and the Egon dude.
Based upon what it says here, it says that the album was executive produced and the ownership in general of the project, because it is a Madlib project. I'm guessing that's the case.
Sounds like Gibbs wouldn't be able to say anything in this regard because of the legalities between those two. So I guess he'd have to sit and wait as well.
It seems like the one thing that's holding it up is the fact that at least part ownership is from this Madison show.
Yeah.
So no getting around that, I guess.
Man, that sounds like, in my mind, that sounds like two dope records.
Yeah.
That sounds like two incredible records.
At least one. At least the Freddie Gibbs and Montana.
To me, that's already a no-brainer to me. Like, that's a no-brainer.
I mean, I love Mac Miller and Madlib and them together would be great. I'm just curious what that sounds like.
Yeah.
What Freddie and them gonna do. So.
Yeah, they've never missed. I go on record saying that. People have their opinions. That's cool, but they've never missed to me. This sucks, man. Especially when you get the back and forth involved and dope music is being held back or withheld. I always hate this situation.
Yeah.
Well, paperwork. You know,
Yeah.
it's really a situation to where it gets to be almost a he said, she said, or
Yeah.
he said, you know, I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to feel no type of way.
Thank you.
And we've seen this so many other times before, you know, when people are trying to work together or they have a relationship, you know, there's somebody who has a hold of one piece of paper that says, hey, I own this percentage of this, or I own this, and I can't do. I just remember, I'll never forget, and like this is some real rap nerd type stuff, is Snoop, after he had left Death Row, had done a song with Dr. Dre when he had an Aftermath called Zoom. And Suge or whoever was holding on to Snoop's rights at that time was like, absolutely not. You can't work with Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
You know, and then it wound up being a song with Dr. Dre and LL Cool J. I think it was on some soundtrack. But, you know, it's like when you know what goes on behind the scenes as far as what you're able to hear a lot of times, you know, it kind of ruins the vibe and the feeling of it. You know, hopefully they figure this out. But I am, you know, I'm not hopeful, I'll be honest, about us ever really hearing these particular projects.
Yeah, I've you know, I've heard rumors about Egon, you know, in the past and stuff, you know, but they're just rumors, you know what I mean? And sometimes people fall out of favor for whatever reason. Maybe they're a little bit too business centric. And Madlib's a music producer who started a label, you know what I mean? So Egon, he is a producer, I think. But still, I don't know.
He produced his record, or
Yeah.
the co-produced, or however you want to say it, slice it. So
I don't know.
put the music out, man.
I'd be curious to see if they can come to some sort of solution here. But
no, for
who
sure.
knows?
That's two joints I would definitely love to hear. Get the paper, but to Jay Moore's point, you always say it's about that paperwork. So get your mind right on the paperwork, and then we'll see what's what. But I got my fingers crossed because I need good music in my life. I think those are two that would, I guess, satisfy that.